You asked for it, and here it is. A second audit of SGV News First. I actually came across this video around the time that I started my channel and saved it so that I could discuss it with all of you. And then I forgot about it because there are so many videos out there of auditors just doing the wrong thing. But hey, we're back on track. So what exactly is this video about? Well, SGV and friends are at the Peter J. Pitches Detention Center in Valencia, doing what they do, when they are approached by a police officer and a man in civilian clothes who appears to present some credentials, showing that he too is some sort of officer. The man tells one of the auditors that they are on private property and need to leave or they'll be charged with trespassing. But of course, that can't be right. The police don't know anything, right? Obviously, SGV thinks this because he demands to know where the property line is. According to the officer, it's as soon as you come onto the loop in the road across from the freeway, approximately 500 feet behind SGV and friends. Not only that, but there are supposedly signs that show this. But would SGV have really ignored those signs or posted this video if he had actually been wrong? SGV immediately becomes hostile because, of course he does, that's kind of his thing. And despite the fact that the plainclothes officer gives him a badge number, he gets mad that the officer didn't give his badge number? And to think this is one of the guys at the front of the auditing movement. After a bit of verbal harassment, well, a lot of verbal harassment, he makes the wise decision to start moving back, saying that these guys want to take them in. Yes, I'm sure they do, because you're trespassing, which is, say it with me, a crime. Yes, a crime. You got it. Good job, you. Not super relevant to the situation, but I do want to point out that SGV seems to think that he owns the police vehicles. I assume it's because he pays taxes? Guys, if you honestly think that's how it works, well, I encourage you to try to drive off in one and use that excuse while you're being arrested. Make sure you film it, and once you're out of jail, send that video my way. Speaking of arrested, I am amazed that SGV isn't in this video. He's clearly told that he is trespassing, and he has been told where the property line is. Despite this, he only retreats a small distance before stopping to film again, well within the property line, saying that he doesn't think that they're right about where that property line is. Let's check, shall we? They started filming here, and it makes sense that they would think that the property line started there because there is this sign. So a person could reasonably believe that it marked the property line, but for some crazy reason, the officer says that they actually penetrated into Pitch's property past this particular position. But of course, that can't be right because, oh, there's a sign there too. You know, personally, if I were doing these audits, I'd be scouting it out ahead of time to avoid embarrassing mistakes like this. Also, wouldn't SGV and friends have passed that sign on their way into the property? Weird. Let's keep discussing the video. SGV decides not to retreat to the property line, choosing instead to continue filming. He hasn't checked the public records of the property lines, something we'll do in a bit, but there's no way he could be wrong. Again, it's amazing he wasn't arrested during all of this. If you ever want to know what it looks like when police don't want to do paperwork, well, you're looking at it. Unsurprisingly, more people arrive to deal with him. This time it appears to be correctional officers or security guards. One of them is having difficulty seeing with SGV's light, blasting him in the face, so he shines a flashlight back so that he can see SGV. SGV claims that the officer violated the Bane Act when he did that. And folks, if you honestly believe that's true, please, get out of your house, interact with other people, maybe stop by a library and learn something. But what's the Bane Act? Great question, non-California residents. Also known as the Tom Bain Civil Rights Act, it makes it possible for a person to civilly penalize someone for using intimidation, threats, or coercion to prevent that person from exercising their lawful or constitutional rights. First, SGV's filming isn't really protected by the Constitution while he's in the location that he's in, and don't worry, we'll discuss that in a moment. Second, that officer was blinded, thought to himself, well, gosh, I sure would like to be able to see this incredibly antagonistic person so that I have a bit of warning if they try to attack me or, I don't know, do something stupid. A flashlight would certainly be useful to do that. And then he used a flashlight to be able to see SGV. It's awfully kind of the officer to drop the flashlight beam back to the ground, though, after SGV turns off his blinding light, which according to SGV, makes the officer a coward. Make up your mind, guy. Do you want the flashlight on you or not? Now, shortly after this happens, SGV is reminded again that he is incorrect about the property line and that he is on property that belongs to the sheriff, to which SGV responds that the sheriff property is public property, so he can do what he wants. The officer he's talking to corrects him and says that it isn't public property, but that doesn't stop SGV. We'll discuss that more in depth later. Spoiler alert, SGV is wrong, regardless of the fact that they aren't within a secure area, which he seems to think is important. It's not. If you watch the original video, I want you to take notice of how friendly this officer right here is. He very kindly points to a sign that marks the boundary of the detention center property, and SGV responds with his usual antagonistic behavior. That sign better be there, says SGV, because if there's no sign, there's no law. No, that's not how it works. That's not how any of it works. You've been told by a police officer to leave. You don't have the legal defense that you didn't know you were trespassing. And the property doesn't magically stop belonging to the sheriff if the sign disappears. Otherwise, you could just steal the sign and claim the land as your own, right? Come on. And if there isn't a penal code on the sign, then it isn't an official sign. Citation needed. Although it does turn out that the sign has a whole bunch of penal codes on it, so here's something worth bringing up. SGV says the officers are behaving like bullies, but of the two of them, who's really the bully? This guy?
Well, here's the thing. You're on county property right now. This is sheriff's property, and it's for county business, okay, right? There's no visiting right now.
Or this guy?
And it didn't have to be a fiasco like a fucking gang. You guys are a gang.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna walk down there. I'm gonna walk down there, deputy. I'm gonna walk down there. You don't have to tell me, buddy. Are you gonna walk down there with me? Let's go. You need the exercise. Let's go. Come on.
Look, these officers are just trying to do their job, and you, SGV, are breaking the law. And if you think that these officers are wasting taxpayer dollars, leave. They're here because of you. Anyway, he crosses the bridge, says that if the sign is there, they'll leave, finds the sign with a few officers hanging out by it, at which point he finally decides to get out of there. Ha! No, of course he doesn't. You thought he would do that. That's ridiculous. Of course he doesn't do that. He says that nowhere on the sign does it say that it's a private road. Oh, so when the sign was farther down the road, it marked the property line. But now that the very same sign is behind your original starting point, it must be meaningless. People follow this guy? He's got subscribers, right? They've seen his content? Have they?
Thousands of people are gonna watch this video. They want to be informed.
Well, they didn't come to the right channel for that. Even though the officer states that the sheriff's department maintains all of the road to include the bridge, SGV refuses to be convinced. And keep in mind, now that SGV is off the sheriff's property, the filming is fine. In fact, the filming was never an issue. You're right, SGV. In this case, photography isn't a crime, but trespassing is. And that's the end of his video. But it's not the end of ours. Let's discuss the idea that the road is still public, despite the sign. I pointed out that SGV seems to think that because he isn't in a secure area, he is on public property, and therefore he must be able to film. The sheriff's department doesn't own the bridge? Well, actually, it does. Remember when SGV was told where the property line started? Turns out that the officer was pretty close. Well, a lot closer, in fact, than SGV was. Gosh, it's so weird that a police officer would know the territorial boundary of a detention center. If you go through the comments section of SGV's original video, not only will you see little baby Sergeant Blue Bacon starting his first legal discussions on the internet, oh gosh, I've grown up so much since then. But you'll also see people claiming that because the property is owned by the government, then it is public property, and SGV has every right to be on it. First, that's not at all how it works. If we look at United States Postal Service versus Council of Greenberg Civil Associations, a Supreme Court case from 1981, we find that the First Amendment does not guarantee access to property simply because it is owned or controlled by the government. Second, regarding the roadway and SGV's theory that the road is publicly owned and therefore he can film it, that's wrong too. The pitch's property is a non-public forum. It is not designated for the freedom of expression. The road is a path to and from that property and serves no other purpose, so it would likely be considered a non-public forum as well, as opposed to a traditional public forum. Plus, they were there past visiting hours. This is property that is open to the public for a specific purpose and only between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. They were filming after those hours, so there was no legitimate purpose to their presence on the pitch's property. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled. Doesn't matter. It's not important. You know, in a video where he's trying to make the police look like tyrants, SGV sure does go out of his way to make himself look like the bad guy. And of course, say it with me now, he failed his audit. Failed, that's right. He nailed it. You guys are great at this. So good. Should start my own children's show. That'll be fun. You think a kid would like this kind of topic? It's never too early to learn about the Constitution. That's all I have for you today. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And until the next time, be good, stay safe. Here we have some videos for you to check out. You should check them out because you might think they're interesting. I should hope so because I spent a lot of time making them, and it would be really nice if you saw them and I didn't do all that work for nothing.